Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, very much in the same way as our Missing Character series, but this time we're going to look at a specific unit, as it has potential to be implemented in a rather unique way. I'm of course talking about the MORGHASTS, so without further ado, let's begin. To better introduce this unit to those who might not be aware of them, we'll read over their entry into the Warhammer Fantasy Battles 8th edition supplement known as the End Times. MORGHASTS, Heralds of the Accursed One. The origins of the MORGHASTS lie deep in the past, long before the time of Sigmar. Nagash, having failed to claim Nehekhara through open war, had visited plague upon the kingdoms of the south, to weaken his enemies in preparation for war. Thousands perished, and all the time, Nagash awaited the proper moment to renew his assault. The great necromancer's pride would not allow him to suffer another defeat, but nor did he want his victory over King Alcadizar to be delivered from a distance. Yet Nagash was not the only one who gazed down Nehekhara's plight. Petra, god of light, had watched powerless as plague ravaged the kingdoms of the sun. Petra burned to loose the fires of the sun upon Nagash, to smite him out of existence with a blazing column of light. Alas, like many of the old gods, Petra's ability to intervene directly in mortal affairs had receded as the dark gods of chaos had grown in power. But he was not entirely helpless. Petra mustered his winged heralds, the Hamurai, and sent them to destroy the great necromancer. Nagash's power was such, however, that even these divine warriors could not slay him. For 40 days and nights, the Hamurai battled Nagash atop the spires of Nagashizar, but neither Sunforged steel nor the light prevailed. As dawn rose on the 41st day, Nagash stood victorious amidst the ruin of Petra's host. Soon after, Nagash entered Nehekhara in triumph. The MORGHASTS came with him. They fought mostly in wing bands of anything between 2 and 20, though the annals of Khemri recount how a legion of 300 fought as a bodyguard to Nagash at the Battle of Ashkaron. Wherever the MORGHASTS fought, there were the bloodiest battles of that campaign. The MORGHASTS had no command of sorcery, but so suffused with death magic were they that their mere presence urged the dead to rise. Even without this, the humans would have stood no chance against the MORGHASTS. For though the creatures now served the darkness rather than the light, they still possessed the might of demigods. Their swords and glaives, fashioned long ago on Petra's solar forge, now blazed with the spirit energies of the slain, the souls trapped within, driven to drag others to share their fate. The sick and wasted remnants of Alcadizar's armies were swept aside, and Nagash at last had his victory. In the wake of his triumph, Nagash began his great ritual to raise the Nehekharan dead as an army fit to conquer the world. Desiring that the MORGHASTS would again serve as his heralds, he sent most south to Nehekhara, ready to join the ranks of the newly risen dead. A few he sent north, the better to hasten that conquest. That invasion, however, never came. The Skaven brought about Nagash's murder, and with the great necromancer's passing, the Nehekharans he animated broke free. Following their master's instructions, the MORGHASTS attempted to assert their own will over the Desert Kings, but were overcome. In victory, the Nehekharan kings, unable to find a ritual to unmake the remains, sealed the MORGHASTS' bones in obsidian tombs deep beneath the sands, and laid curses upon the stones so that they may not awaken. Those MORGHASTS that had gone north fared better for a time, their armies of the dead growing with each step. The MORGHASTS brought the gift of oblivion to the scattered tribes. However, without Nagash, the magics that empowered the MORGHASTS ebbed away, seeping into the ether as blood from a wound. One by one, they collapsed and did not rise. The greatest of their number, the Arche, Nagash's elite guard, who had been fused from the mightiest of Petra's heralds, felt the waning draw nigh. They bade their minions forge ebon-wrought armor to channel the magic of the world into their cursed forms. Most of the Morghast, fixated upon war against Nagash's enemies, did not notice their growing enfeeblement until it was too late. Centuries passed, the Morghast were all but forgotten, the subject of legend. Prospectors and explorers stumbled upon Morghast remains amidst the ruins of fortress crypts, watched over by sightless skeletons and worshipped by tribes of ghouls. The Morghast became curiosities, remnants that no scholar could fully explain. Over the years, many necromancers paid handsome sums or risked their own wretched lives to reclaim such cadavers, only to meet with frustration with each failed attempt at resurrection. It would have provided little consolation had they known that the failure was not theirs, but due to the magic fading from the world through the continuing efforts of the elves. Indeed, when Nagash returned during the time of Sigmar, even he found the magics of that era too thin to sustain a Morghast demigod spirit, and so looked to the mortal dead such as the warlord Krell to serve in their place. Only now, in the hour of Nagash's third and final resurrection, when the power of the dark gods waxes and the skies burn with the stuff of raw magic, are the Morghast beginning to awaken. In Nehekara, there is a hammering on the walls of long buried tombs. Beneath the mountains, bones reknit before the astonished eyes of wretched worshippers. Skeletal wings darken the skies, and ungodly weapons shriek with joy at the prospect of stealing new souls. Only Nagash's closest lieutenants can command them. Only the mightiest heroes of the mortal race have the power to defeat them. Where they tread, the living perish and the dead awaken. The Morghast are rising, and they are the heralds of death. An interesting unit, mainly because their lore is so strange. Essentially, they are considered angels, or really better yet said, demons of the god Petra. But Nagash somehow managed to not only kill them permanently, but also resurrect them. It's something that's never really been heard in lore before, but it's important to note that they were implemented during the End Times, and the End Times were a very strange series of books. Two variants existed on the tabletop at this time. The Harbingers, which had two hand weapons and heavy armor, they were the more common of the two, and then of course the Arche, which had a halberd and ebon-wrought armor. Stat-wise, they didn't really vary, barring the fact that the latter themselves had a better armor save. Both unit variants had a special rule known as Heralds of the Accursed One, which gave a similar bonus that Nagash did on the tabletop. Units with this special rule, and all friendly units with the undead special rule within 12 inches of them, suffer one less wound than they normally would due to the unstable special rule. Essentially what this meant is that it would stop the undead from crumbling as quickly, which could also be implemented as we discussed a similar format for Nagash himself. But why did I want to talk about these units in particular? Well, should Nagash be implemented, it could be assumed that these units will also be alongside him, considering that both Nagash and the Morghast were released with the same book, and they were really only available to vampire counts or legions of undead. So I'm assuming that these models will be implemented, it's only a matter of time. However, unlike the rest of the vampire counts, I believe that the Morghasts, being so powerful as they are, might see some implementation changes as to how they can be recruited. I'm assuming that Nagash would be able to recruit them from a tier 4 or tier 5 building without any problem. This much makes sense, as it is part of his proper army. However, some other factions may also get access to these units, in the way of maybe if a Vampire Count, Vampire Coast or Tomb King Lord joins with Nagash, then he could have special access to these units. Of course, these would be limited recruitment, maybe a few here and there, and you would need to either build up favor with Nagash or take over certain buildings to increase their cap, very much in the same way as to how the Tomb Kings currently recruit the majority of their roster. But I think it would be rather interesting if, say, you were playing as Manfred or Arkan or anyone else, and maybe down the line, if there's a special Nagash resurrection event, you would be given the choice to serve, where should you choose to serve Nagash, you would become a vassal of his, but by doing so, you would get access to the MORGHASTS. Something like that would give players incentive to join up with Nagash. Though this is just spitballing an idea. Personally, despite the confusing lore, I quite like the unit. I've actually got a few of them painted up myself, and I'd like to see them implemented in Total War Warhammer. I understand they might seem a bit too ridiculous for some players, but you gotta admit the model does look cool. But what do you guys think about the MORGHASTS? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.